A lot of times with these coaches and coaches like Kevin Stefanski, it's ego over execution. It's plays over players. At the end of the day, you got to give this kid a shot to redeem himself. That's the beauty of being a rookie. You're going to go out there, you're going to struggle, you're going to have some success, you're going to struggle again, but you want to see them come out on the other side. Now, Shedeur had 5 sacks, 5 drives, just was trying to press, trying to impress coaches, the fans, trying to live up to what Dillon Gabriel just put out there on the field. And Kevin Stefanski handled that situation and this whole quarterback competition horribly, because you removed an opportunity for him to redeem himself in that situation, to go out as a winner. And again, it's not just we all see it. Players on the team sees it. Players on the opposing team see it. They know what's going on. They know what's going down, but it's all about Kevin Stefanski's ego. We saw this with Baker Mayfield. Oh, it doesn't fit my system. Well, your system has to be about the players that are in it. And we've seen him do this because the offense was completely different when Dillon Gabriel was out there. It was a lot of, short, quick passes to get the ball out of his hands, spread the formation, which is great. That's what you're supposed to do for a guy that thrives in that situation. So I don't know why for Shedeur the offense changed. He kind of wanted to curate something around him. But at the end of the day, Shedeur recognized he had to play better. That game looked a lot like that UCLA game his first year in Colorado. But I blame Stefanski for how he's handled this whole situation, because it doesn't look very coach of the year leadership-like to me.
What do you know so far about Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson? And I know you probably know by now that those two guys probably are going to be the ones competing for the starting jobs. Wondering what your thoughts are on those guys, and how do you feel about kind of, heading into a quarterback competition here?
Yeah, I seen, me being on another team, I seen both of them play some real good football. So I'm just keeping everything competitive. Whoever in the starting spot, we're gonna be there for him, or whoever don't. We're gonna, the one or the two, we're gonna be there for him. But I guess just keeping it competitive and just being there for both of them when they need it.
What if I told you that the most important conversation happening inside the Cleveland Browns right now isn't about touchdowns, isn't about contracts, and it's not even about Deshaun Watson? It's about a quiet veteran offensive lineman, a 2-time Pro Bowler who just signed with Cleveland, walked into his first press conference and said something about Shedeur Sanders that stopped everybody in that room cold. Nobody saw this coming, and honestly, after you hear it, you're going to understand exactly why Browns fans should be more excited than they've been in years. Stay with me, because this one hits different. Before we get into it, if you're new here and you love real Browns content, no fluff, no clickbait, just the game, hit that subscribe button right now and ring that bell. We drop heat consistently, and you don't want to miss what's coming this season. All right, let's get into it.
Hey, welcome to Cleveland. Just wanted to ask you about your versatility. When did you first really develop that, being able to play multiple positions? Was that, youth level, high school, college? Where did that first really, were you able to really fine-tune that?
Looking back on it, so when I was like 11th grade, I was playing left tackle. Then my last year, we went to a more run-heavy offense, and I was playing guard.
So here's the situation heading into 2026. The Cleveland Browns had one of the worst offensive line performances in the entire NFL last season. We're not sugarcoating it. It was ugly. Quarterbacks running for their lives, the pocket collapsing before the play even developed. It was the kind of tape that offensive line coaches lose sleep over. But this offseason, the Browns front office made a decision. They said enough. They went out and rebuilt that line, piece by piece, man by man, with veterans who have something to prove and young talent hungry to break through. And right in the middle of all those moves, a name popped up that made heads turn across the league. Elgton Jenkins, former Green Bay Packer, 2-time Pro Bowl selection, a guy who has played left guard, right tackle, left tackle, and center, all at a high level. A rare kind of offensive lineman, the kind of versatile, experienced, battle-tested guy you build a unit around. But here's where it gets really interesting. When Jenkins sat down in front of reporters for the first time as a Cleveland Brown, the room was ready for standard press conference answers. You know the ones. I'm just happy to be here. We take it one day at a time. It's a team sport. That's not what happened. When asked about the quarterback competition, and specifically about Shedeur Sanders, Jenkins didn't dodge it. He didn't give a politician's answer. He looked straight ahead, spoke from the gut, and said something that revealed everything about the mentality this team is building. He talked about both quarterbacks, Sanders and Watson, and made it clear whoever wins that job, the offensive line is going to be there for them, fully, completely. No debate, no drama, no divided loyalty. But the energy when Sanders' name came up, you could feel it shift. Here's the thing about a veteran offensive lineman publicly embracing a rookie quarterback. That doesn't just happen. You don't get a two-time Pro Bowler who's been in this league, who's played alongside Aaron Rodgers, who's blocked for playoff offenses. You don't get that guy to quietly buy in unless something real is happening behind the scenes. Jenkins isn't performing for cameras. This is a man who has earned his reputation through years of trench warfare, and he's telling Cleveland, I came here for a reason. I believe in what's being built here.
So I know you wouldn't have been directly matched up with Myles Garrett a lot when you guys played in week 3, but what was that like preparing for him? And what do you, when you watch him, like, what do you see?
I mean, I think we all see the same thing. You got to chip them, you got to slide. You probably got to put 3 people on them sometimes. That's how we game plan. They're going to put a tight end over there. Well, that's how we game plan it in my old team. But we're going to put a tight end on him. We're going to slide the line to him. Everybody got to keep eyes on him. He was like the main focus of that game, and he still did what he did. The type of player he is, for people to game plan.
Now let's talk about why this matters so much. Rookie quarterbacks in the NFL live or die by their offensive line. Period. End of sentence. You can have the most talented arm in the draft class, the best football IQ, the quickest release. None of it matters if your guys up front aren't protecting you. Shedeur Sanders already dealt with one of the worst sack rates in college football during his time at Colorado. He took hit after hit after hit and still performed. He still dissected defenses. He still showed elite-level poise. But the NFL is a different animal. The speed, the stunts, the exotic blitz packages, it's a different world. And if the Browns are going to give Sanders a real shot to compete for that starting job, they needed to surround him with men who know what they're doing. Enter Jenkins, a guy who has dealt with Micah Parsons in practice every single week, a guy who has gone up against the best edge rushers in the league, guys like Myles Garrett, and has the game experience and the football IQ to actually communicate protections, diagnose pressure, and give a young quarterback the time he needs to make plays. That's not small, that's enormous. And speaking of Myles Garrett, Jenkins was straight up honest about what it was like preparing for him from the other sideline. He said something that shows exactly how the rest of the league views Garrett. He talked about how game planning for Myles meant chipping, sliding, putting tight ends on him, shifting the entire protection scheme around one man, and Garrett still did what Garrett does. He still got to the quarterback, still broke the sack record. Jenkins put him right alongside Micah Parsons as the 2 best edge rushers in football right now, and he wasn't saying that to be diplomatic. He was saying it because it's true, and now he gets to play on the same sideline as that guy. Think about what that means for this team. When you're an offensive lineman and you go to practice every single day against Myles Garrett, Jerome Ford, and one of the deepest defensive lines in the NFL, you get better. You have no choice. There's no easy day. There's no taking a mental rep off. You compete or you get humiliated.
Yeah, during the free agency process, Titus called me, and he was recruiting me real hard, talking about Coach Warhop and the things that he did for him throughout his career, and then me just I looked him up honestly before, and the guys that he coached and the mentality that he come with, I feel like it was a perfect place for me to be, especially trying to just game and just pick his brain and try to get everything I can out of him.
Jenkins understood that dynamic before he signed, and he signed anyway. That's the mentality of a winner. Something else that came out in that press conference that I don't want you to sleep on. Titus Howard called Jenkins personally during free agency. Not a text, not an email from an agent, a phone call. One player recruiting another player, talking about the coaches, the culture, the opportunity, the chance to build something together. And Jenkins picked up what Titus was putting down. When you have veteran players actively recruiting other veterans to come to your team, that's culture. That's not something a front office manufactures with a press release. That's grown men who believe in what they're building, putting their reputations on the line to pull the right people into the room. Jenkins also talked about Coach Warhop, a man who has a legendary reputation for developing offensive linemen everywhere he's been. Jenkins did his research before he signed. He looked up the guys Warhop coached, he studied the results, and he liked what he saw. This is not a guy just chasing a paycheck. This is a man who made a calculated decision that Cleveland was the right place to elevate his game and chase a championship. Let me bring it back to Shedeur Sanders, because this is the real story underneath the story. The Browns invested in this offensive line specifically because they have a young quarterback they want to develop. Whether Shedeur wins the starting job in Week 1 or not, the message is clear. This organization is preparing for a future that has Shedeur Sanders at the center of it. And now they've brought in a veteran who has seen everything, who is open to playing whatever position helps the team win, and who, when that first press conference question came up about the quarterbacks, didn't flinch. He embraced the competition. He embraced Shedeur. That kind of veteran leadership around a young quarterback, that's priceless. We've seen what happens when young quarterbacks get thrown behind bad lines without veterans who believe in them. The results are ugly. Careers get shortened. Confidence gets shattered. But we've also seen what happens when a franchise does it right, when they protect their investment, build the right culture, and let a young quarterback grow. Jenkins being here, healthy, competitive, and bought in, it changes the math for Shedeur heading into his first NFL season. Look, the Cleveland Browns have broken hearts before, we know this. Every Browns fan has scar tissue. But this offseason feels genuinely different. The pieces being assembled, the defensive line that already goes to war every Sunday, the new offensive line with real veterans and real talent, a young quarterback full of heart and swagger, and a coaching staff that looks like it knows what it's doing. This feels like a team being built intentionally. Elgton Jenkins walking into that press conference and talking about Shedeur Sanders the way he did wasn't a headline, it was a statement. It said, "I came here to win. I believe in this quarterback, and I'm going to protect him like he's my own." Cleveland hasn't had that in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, 2026 is the year it finally comes together. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a comment below. Tell me, do you think Shedeur Sanders wins the starting job Week 1? Let's debate it. Like the video, share it with a Browns fan who needs to hear this, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next one.